We talked about the name calling and so forth and the N word, but then you actually had a situation with some bikers. Was that the first physical altercation over essentially racism?
My sister and I were, I don't think even 10 yet, coming from church, because my parents first stayed out of trouble. Used to remember the Boys and Girls Club, the Dartball Club, and all those different things. They just wanted us to be near the church and not get in trouble. So one day, on a Saturday, we're walking from the church home, and these three bikers, white bikers, big, I'm talking about men,
Yeah.
holler from the gas station, "Hey, little nigga, stop! We want to talk to you." And my father's always taught us that there's a potential confrontation, to run from it. And so we started running, and they chased us.
Oh, wow.
And when they chased us and caught us, they knocked me to the ground and kicked me and punched me. These were grown men.
Grown men kicking and punching a 10-year-old.
Yeah, and my face was bleeding and teeth were loose and all kinds of
They knocked out teeth.
They didn't knock them out. It's just like when they fit you,
Yeah,
teeth
okay.
are loose and everything.
Right.
And bleeding, and one of the bikers lifted my head and said, "Next time we say stop, nigga, stop," right? I just looked at him. I was like, almost comatose. He said, "Did you hear what I said?" I nodded my head. And they laughed and took off. Because I told my sister to run, she wouldn't. And she helped get me off the ground.
Oh, so she stood there and watched while all this happened.
I told her, "Yvonne, run, get away, run." She wouldn't run.
Well, at least they didn't touch her.
No, they didn't touch her.
You know.
Yes, they could have.
That's one positive thing that came out of it.
That's one positive thing. So we ran home, and my mother was there by herself, and then she washed me off and everything, laid me on the couch, and my father came in and saw me swollen and bruised and everything. He said, "What happened?" And when my sister and I told him, he said, "Stay here." He went upstairs and got his gun. And he said, "Come on." My mother said, "Don't do it, Bill, don't do it." He said, "Come on." And he put us in the back of the car. And with his rifle, he first went to the gas station and asked the gas attendant, "Where are they?" And he showed the gas attendant his gun, and the guy said, "They went up Main Street." Because the gas attendant had seen what had happened.
Yeah.
And my father rode up and down Main Street for what seemed like hours looking for bikers. And even if my sister and I saw them, we would never tell him, because that would have meant the end of his life, and he would probably go to jail because he would have killed him.
Yeah, and you know, in our last interview, we kind of started it out with how up to a certain point in your life, you hated white people. And we didn't really get into some of the explanations, but now we're kind of illustrating that fact a little bit, a little bit more. It's instances like this, getting beat up by grown men at 10 years old, and, your father being told by a cop disparaging things about his whole family in front of him to his face. I think you would hate anyone that puts you in that type of position over and over again.
Well, you first of all, racism is a generalization. It's like anybody who did this to me, anyone that looks like that is the same person. So you dismiss their humanity. But in those days, there were so many. You turn the TV on and look at the news, and blacks were being tortured. We're talking about hanged, called lynching in those days, and what they called nigger barbecues. They used to there were two ways of barbecuing us. If you read a book, it's an incredible book called Without Sanctuary. It's a pictorial history of what I'm saying. I'm not making it up. You can look at it in a book. And they used to hang us in trees and put fire under us until we dehydrated and we turned into ash. Or they actually put us on spits alive, like you're roasting a pig, and you'd be screaming, and they'd turn you and turn you and turn you until you turn into ash.
You know, I've seen the photos. I
You've seen
I
the
looked it up
photos.
after our last interview. Yeah, this is a real thing.
Is that amazing?
Yeah, it's terrible.